All right, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start with Bull. Ginny?
Bush,
Here.
Greenlee,
Here.
Harris, Hill,
Here.
Kyers,
Here.
Longstreet,
Here.
McCaffrey.
Here.
Ricard is not here yet. Rice,
Here.
Sachs.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. I think Field told me yesterday he would be here, but just late, so hopefully he'll be here in not too much longer because of his other meeting. All right, additions and deletions to the agenda. I don't think we have any today, so we'll just keep going with the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. So we actually have two sets of minutes. I guess I would entertain a motion to approve both the minutes, if someone's so inclined.
I'm so inclined.
Okay.
I'll
All right.
support her in conclusion.
So, Phil, was that you that second? Okay, thanks, Phil. All right, any questions, comments, edits on the minutes? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, minutes are approved. We do not have any communications this month, so that brings us to our first public comment. And I don't see anyone in the audience unless any of you folks out there want to make public comment. All right. Okay, you can. You got 3 minutes if you'd like. But if anyone is online listening, there is a email where you can send your public comment in anytime during the month and address it to the Parks Commission. It should be in the description of the YouTube video there. So feel free to do that at any time and we'll take a look at it at the next meeting. So, all right, first up is our quarterly finance report. So this will be for the period ending June 30th that we have in our packet, correct? Let me just pull this up here, sorry. So we get this once a quarter and it's just for information. Jason, is there anything you wanted to highlight, or Brandy, or
Well,
Linda,
so
or-
we realized when we sent out, we didn't provide any guidance on anything noticeable. So we'll work on providing that and share that with the finance committee to review in detail in September. So anything else, Brandy?
Not necessarily anything notable.
Mhm.
My computer decided now to
Oh.
upload to
Update.
update the Adobe
Oh,
software.
that's the way it goes. So,
Yeah.
so we have the information. I don't, Linda, did you want to say anything?
I'll just say probably that we don't have notes because we didn't have an August finance meeting. So we took a month off. We're paying the bills.
All right. So if anybody takes a look at this and has questions, feel free to ask Jason, Brandy, Linda, after that comes out, or we'll take a look
Jason,
at
Brandy,
it.
copy me if you want.
All right. So then we'll move on to staff reports and start with the director's report, which is Jason.
Yep. 1 second. All right. So just a few things to point out. We did. So the MOU was finalized with Grand Haven and Ferrysburg and Kitchling-Quastoon, and we've since had 2 meetings since the MOU was finalized. So I'll actually take this off for now from my report. So yeah, and then I'll let Neely and or Kurt talk about any other highlights from the most recent meeting. The Grand Explorers Trail Race. So I'm sure Jane might want to give some updates as the foundation's report rolls around, but we had authorized that under the Parks Commission had authorized that as a 3-year event that we would try with a special permit. So 2025 was the 3rd year of that. So I'll be, having conversations with the foundation about if that's an event that they want to continue to spearhead and organize for us. So really, and I included Anita is the race director. She put together and attached to my report was a nice summary that really looked at all the metrics from it. So something like that might be a little bit broader than typically is part of what a foundation does, but it reaches a lot of our goals too from a Parks Commission. So we're really happy that they do it. And just a few miscellaneous things. I did a Grand Haven Rotary presentation, but then we hosted MacPro, which is our county Parks and Recreation officials, a professional organization here in Ottawa County in July. So they came, I think, in December when it was really cold once, and then they wanted to come back when it was summer in West Michigan. So, yeah. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Anything for Jason? All right. Okay, thanks, Jason. Oh, also, did you want to give a little update on, or would you be able to, I guess, on advisory committee? I mean, just since you've got the floor here or do you want to wait?
How about circle back to me after the rest of the staff and I'll
Okay,
pull up my,
perfect.
yes.
Yes, all right. Oh, yeah, sorry. I'll do
Oh,
that.
that's okay.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll move on to the park operations report, and we have Eric here. Yay, welcome, Eric. Do you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if everyone here knows you, or you can.
My name is Eric Freefeld. I'm the South Area Park Supervisor. Here filling in for Jason Berger, who's off today. We have the report from June. See on there, it looks like we did a lot of things. Just one item that I'd like to highlight on page 3, you'll notice our partnership with Escape Ministries. This is a program that I've been involved with for quite a few years. It's probably my most favorite thing about summer. We get together with at-risk youth 3 days a week, and we provide them with what they call career connections. They come to mostly South Parks. We do invasive species removal. We show them how to trim trails, and then we also go to the marina and do marina maintenance. And these are kids. They're usually 14 to 15-year-olds. Some of them have been involved in the juvenile court system. This was the first year that Ottawa County Juvenile Court actually partnered with the program, so we had some other county employees involved doing some work on parks as well. It's great for the kids. They get work experience. They get a lot of positive mentorship, and then through Escape, they get food and after-work programming. They get to go to camp and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's a really positive thing to be involved in, and it's a win-win. It's really good PR for us when we're out and about. People see the kids doing work, and they ask what's going on when we explain the program. A lot of people get behind it.
Right.
Personally, I get a lot of fulfillment from it. I love working with the kids. I get to hear their stories. I get to tell them about parks. A lot of them, they're young. A lot of them they're not coming from families that go on nature hikes very often. So all of a sudden you're out there, they're like, what is this bug and what are these plants? And oh, there's a snake, and all of it's new and exciting to them, right? They don't have those opportunities. So like I said, win-win situation, very fulfilling for myself. And then lastly, I just wanted to give a shout out. Rick Bosch, he's a volunteer at Paw Paw Park. He's involved with the program as well. He comes and meets us every Wednesday morning and does a half day with us, the kids, and helps pull plants. And he's been doing that with us for probably the last 5 years. And we're just seeing a lot of compounding progress. Garlic mustard, spotted knapweed, teasel, anything you can think of, where we're seeing places that were once overrun with certain plants. It's now really spare, and we're putting native plants in their place. So yeah, that's about it. And then if you have any questions regarding the rest of the report, I can try to answer them.
Awesome. Anything?
The dead deer on Black Lake, have you been seeing more than one, or is that about the only one so far?
That's the only one that I have heard of. I know we had some last year at Upper Mac, quite a few, I believe.
Yeah, there were a bunch in the North Parks also, kind of Crackery Creek area. I have heard of, someone said something about a fawn on near water that looked.
Spoonville's really bad right now.
Yeah.
That's it, so.
I think we're still getting a few here and there. I think I had more at Upper Mac last year than I had in the past.
Okay.
You'd find them along the river or in the ponds. So, yeah.
Anything else for Eric? Yeah, can you tell me about the Escape Ministries program? How many kids is that?
Sure. We get usually 5 kids. It kind of varies. I'll get 4 or 5 kids. Sometimes they'll rotate in. They have several work locations that they go to. And then usually we get 2 supervisors. They had some turnover right at the beginning of the season, but we had 1 supervisor that stuck with us the whole season. And then partway through the season, we got a kid that was a parolee, so he came with 2 county employees, which we put to work as well. So we have
Nice.
supervision, and yeah, usually 4 to 5 kids.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome.
And they do a lot of NRM related work, so
Lots of
we really
NRM.
appreciate it.
Mhm.
And it was a hot summer, like in June.
It was
we were
hot.
out
Yeah.
Doing manual labor in the heat.
And Rick brings them popsicles, right?
We bring them treats as much as
Nice.
possible, and we take breaks and stuff, so. That's one of my favorite. We take breaks and we do a lot of communication with the kids. There's always a question of the day, or one day we did positive affirmations where we went around and, you had to say something nice about each person. Just a lot of good, positive communication.
Cool.
So.
Great.
Great. Good deal. Anyone else? All right. Hello, Field. Nice to see you.
It will be this way.
Oh, I know. We know you get here as quickly as you can, so.
I break the land speed record for Muskegon to me every time, so.
You need a sheriff escort, right? Yeah, that's right. Thanks for coming today, Eric, though. It's great to see you, so. All right, planning and development report, that's Kurt.
All right, good afternoon. Just a couple updates to add to my written report. One in regard to the Eastonville barn. We did have a meeting with our consultant yesterday morning, and they have a draft report that they're going to have to us fairly soon, in the next couple of weeks. But we had a draft to make comments on. So that will, kind of go through the process and the findings, and maybe most importantly, look at some preliminary costs for what we hope to do. So the costs that they presented are pretty high, but they included a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily need to get it where we want. So I think we'll ask them for a phase 1 kind of breakout. But anyway, so in a couple weeks, we should have something a little more detailed about what it looks like for that. And if you remember, I think we've talked about this. We're hoping to do a new master plan for the whole farm site here soon. So this really is meant to just kind of plug right into that, so that we can, have a new plan that really works for what we hope to do in the next 5 or 10 years. So that's that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, down on the Macatawa River at Paw Paw Park, they started on our project to help restore some of the stream banks there. If you recall, we're working with ODC, and they actually, Outdoor Discovery Center, actually got a grant, but it's for a couple of bends in the river through Paw Paw Park that are really susceptible to erosion. So they're doing some kind of major earthwork and stabilization there. And that just started, unfortunately, although I guess it's going okay. They had a route down there through the neighborhood. The neighborhoods did not like it. Big trucks hauling through there. So it is coming through more of the park, but it's not really supposed to take too long for them to get done. So sooner they're out of there, the better, and they can get to, doing plantings and so forth on that. So other than that, I think my report is up to date. If there are questions, happy to answer them.
Anybody? All right, thanks,
Right.
Kurt. Thank you. Community engagement, are you taking that today, Riley? We get all these guest presenters today.
I'll let the report mainly stand as is. I just wanted to draw attention to a couple of events. We have one
Can you
going
pull
on
a
in
microphone?
October.
Oh,
Can you
yeah,
pull the
sorry.
microphone over?
Good call.
Thanks. Cool. Okay. Cool. Can you hear me better? Okay. So the Rosie Mound expansion dedication is on October 8th, and the foundation's annual meeting is happening before then. So I want to mark that. And then something that didn't make it in this, but our Naturally Speaking program coming up on September 4th will be about the bird banding at Ottawa Sands opportunity. So you can go to that and learn more about how that's going to work. And then we also have a cool guest speaker coming for that, who's going to talk about her experience banding northern saw-whet owls in Oklahoma. So that'll be a really cool program, and you can learn about what's going to happen at Ottawa Sands later this September. So
Cool.
happy to answer any other questions.
Ready? All right, thanks, Riley. And we'll keep going on to the Natural Resources Management Report, and Neely.
All right. So obviously from the length of this report, you can see that our staff has been extraordinarily busy this summer doing just about a little bit of everything, especially considering it encompasses 2 months. So I would say that, I mean, and this kind of already is spelled out in the report, but one of our main focuses right now is HWA. So this year and last year's kind of droughty weather hit the hemlocks pretty hard. So we've been trying to treat as many hemlocks as we possibly can. To that end, we've been recruiting volunteers from every spot imaginable. So if anyone knows anyone that wants to volunteer a half day or even a full day to treat or measure hemlock trees at Rosie Mound, send them my way. And then we are actually working on some oak wilt treatments too, which is a little bit depressing, but a little bit exciting at the same time. So finally coming up with some sort of management strategy to contain some of these infestations. And I think right now we have 5 parks that have active oak wilt sites. Other than that, like I said, my field staff has just been super busy, lots of exciting stuff going on. And then Kelly had asked for an update about the eaglet that was re-nested. I was going to say rehomed, but at Crackery Creek earlier this year. And while we don't have visual confirmation that it's still there, we've been out there a few times, including I went out last night just to double check. To triple check, and that we haven't found any evidence that it was pushed out of the nest, which Bill Bowerman, the eagle bander, said that that he doesn't think he's ever had an unsuccessful re-nesting of an eagle, but also that if it happened, it would likely happen right away. So no baby eagle was found on the ground, so we assume that no news is good news in that regard.
Great, thank you.
You want to talk about your committee?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Explain yeah.
Sure. So for anyone that doesn't know, the Natural Resources Division, we're going through division-specific strategic planning right now. So as part of the NRM strategic planning process, we're developing an advisory committee. It's a little bit different than some of the other standing committees in the rest of the organization, and that it's not necessarily commissioners. It's different experts in natural resource related fields. So just to have input on some of the projects that we do that might require a little bit more of a specialist. So we did have our first meeting, and I think it went relatively well. I've only gotten good feedback so far. And then just working on coming up with a standing meeting date and time to work on the planning going forward. So finishing the development of our NRM strategic plan, and then working on park-specific NRM management plans. Which I should mention too, we our GIS intern this summer that Erin is mostly overseeing, Paris, has been working on maps and plans for us, and she's gotten an amazing amount of work done. So hopefully we'll see some of those plans soon.
So I know a couple commissioners asked too about, why is there a committee that's not made up of commissioners? But it is just, and honestly, I think it's fantastic because Neely and Jason and staff have pulled together like a really great group of knowledgeable natural resource managers and professionals that are, donating their time and expertise just to weigh in, but they're not making decisions. That it's just an advisory, so it's not a committee that's making decisions on behalf of the commissioner or anything.
Yeah,
So
they're just,
we're
I
not
think,
voting on things. It's more just providing feedback. and
exactly. It's a way of
technical-
expanding capacity without, I have a degree in natural resources management, but I don't have a specialty in anything. So I know a little bit about a lot of things, but we have relationships with these people that have these specialties in very specific things. So why not use their expertise when we can?
Do you want,
Yeah, and
Yep.
just so,
So
because I
now's-
know there's been talk about other advisory committees, so maybe you could just have a big picture on.
well, and so and we'll send a link out to everybody tomorrow. In the welcome packet that's in the Teams folder for the onboarding packet for the Parks Commissioners, we have defined the advisory committee. So we can talk a little bit about that, just the structure formally. So as a public body, we organize these as advisory committees. And so you'll notice even when we have in our packets, they're notes, not minutes. That just helps relieve some of the administrative burden on if we had official acting subcommittees that voted on things and made decisions. Those would then qualify as public meetings that then we would need to publicly post and record. So this helps us a little more informally still gather input and feedback from the committees and parks commissioners, who then really are serving in a function to give us the feedback from the residents in the county. So we have 4 standing committees: community engagement, executive, finance and policy, and planning. And we've talked about natural resources, and part of the reason it took a little bit longer was just talking through what was that role. We thought it would make more sense to have it, at least at this point in time, be an advisory functioning committee to really harness and connect in with professionals in the field throughout the county to give feedback in some of the work that we're doing in the natural resources area right now. It always might be another standing committee that we form that might evolve over time, or we might have, right, a mix of both. So, but yeah, and it's an opportunity to provide guidance and feedback to staff, and then this is where we really want to have the robust conversations and debate amongst yourselves and formally approve actions. So.
Is there anything that says there cannot be a non-commissioner on a committee, on a standing committee?
So we would have to look at the bylaws. I think that, and how that's worded, the president appoints the committees, but and especially if it's an ad hoc committee, you would certainly think that we might want to go outside of the Parks
Exactly.
Commission.
Somebody with expertise.
Yep. But then, right, the role would be the Parks Commission would identify, we want to have a special focus on public transportation to parks. And then, Kelly, and her view as the president, would identify, who would, obviously we'd want some Parks Commissioners on there, but there might, right, be a real benefit to having somebody else. So.
Any other questions? Field, go ahead.
Neely, I am always impressed with what you're doing and all the stuff that's going on. And I think it's one of the most important things that this commission could be doing. We have a strong program of reducing invasive species in the parks, which I see that happening as a need around the county. Do we work with other entities like township governments in a significant way? Do we have tools for them that explain what to look for or how to fix it? Do we have the same thing for private property owners? And if not, you're working on a strategic plan. I think that'd be a great thing to add,
I
because
think that's a really good point.
we're
yeah.
little islands. Our
Mhm.
parks are little islands, but this stuff is happening everywhere.
And I mean, we do work in conjunction with a lot of different agencies and organizations. I don't know how much we've worked with local government. We have talked about it quite a bit. I know the Park Township, we've talked to them about a couple different issues. But no, I agree that seems like that would be a really good fit.
And that's,
We're
as
interested.
as we talked about some of the things going through the strategic planning process, it's really, we've always led by doing a good job in our own parks, whether it's design or operations and maintenance and natural resources management. But really the look to the future is being that leader and providing those resources, and partnering with the other departments in the county. And then, how do we provide those resources to help whether it's community members, and then collaboration with folks like the Conservation District who take a lot of care of a lot of the private or citizen invasive species management or try to help,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And I mean, and that definitely is one of the aims of our volunteer work days as well. And we do, although we don't have, I think, specific dates down on paper yet, we have plans to do some workshops that would demonstrate invasive species removal. And actually this evening we have an HWA presentation that one of our stewardship technicians is presenting. And part of that will be, there will be a demonstration on how we treat hemlocks for hemlock woolly adelgid after. So we're definitely heading in that direction. But yeah, I agree that partnering with local municipalities would probably
You know,
be a good idea.
I think it would be really good to work in close consort with our communications team.
Yep.
And maybe you could be developing a series of both print pieces for publications in the county, and at the same time, some videos that you might put on YouTube or something like that. I think I mean, we can have our little islands, but if the problem, and we can't really affect Allegan County and Kent County and Muskegon County around us, but I think if we could set an example of broadly communicating this to folks, it also, I think, as we approach a millage vote, which is coming up, if we are showing this kind of leadership, it has a psychological effect on everybody. And I don't know if the communications team can start to work with you, but I think it shouldn't just be one-off little things. It should be a drumbeat of activities.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a lot of conversation, especially throughout the strategic planning process with communication or with community engagement, about various things, including workshops and including outreach materials specifically about forest pests, but also invasive species. So there will be, and we don't have a date yet for this either, there will be a presentation about oak wilt coming out a little bit later this fall. So, I mean, those are definitely things that we've been thinking toward, and Jessica and Riley and Tyler and I meet pretty regularly. So, yeah,
Well,
I think the videos are a great idea too. Someone else can be in them.
Right.
You would be very good in them, I will say.
Talk about it, Ottawa County Park in your backyard.
Yes,
right?
yeah. So,
Explain that.
yeah,
because
absolutely.
that aligns with what
So,
he's.
Tyler, my stewardship supervisor, developed an idea actually through one of his county trainings. A program which the working title is like county parks in your backyard or homegrown county parks, similar to Doug Tallamy's. My mind is going blank right now.
Homegrown National Park.
Thank you. Yes. See, Kelly knew. So that basically it's like adding another county park, but it's made up of a bunch of people's backyards, and that would be accomplished by improving habitat, removing invasive species, just like we would in our parks. So, and I know Tyler has a lot more specifics developed for that, so I don't want to steal his thunder, but yeah.
But it aligns with, that conversation about, right, expanding beyond the borders and how do we do that, connecting with the community. It also, right, aligns with what Department of Strategic Impact is doing with the groundwater, really focusing on improving these resources on a countywide scale.
Well, and I think, I mean, and I think that leads nicely into our MOU with Kitchell Lindquist and City of Ferrysburg and the City of Grand Haven in an attempt to help manage the City of Grand Haven property. So that's an important partnership. And I know that Jason kind of alluded to that. And we did just have our first official meeting after the kickoff. And then we'll meet again in December, I believe. So right now, the initial conversation is about partnering to do invasive species removal. And there will be some outreach attached to that, both from the City of Grand Haven and from us, and then Kitchell Lindquist as well. So we're all going to partner to do some invasive species removal there, as well as mapping the invasive species. And then I'm sure some outreach with Kitchell Lindquist has a summer intern who is working on invasive species there. So
good. Document this stuff and share that with townships.
We do.
Well, all right.
The Board of Commissioners gets, I mean,
Well,
Yeah, I know what you're saying about, but I mean, I guess just to wrap this up, but it is, I've heard
Sorry.
both of their, no, you're good, Field it.
no, I
like
love,
both
and I
of
love the
yours-
idea of the videos.
Well,
too.
Both of
And-
your strategic initiatives involve
Mhm.
more outreach. And so
And-
I think that would be good and it's under, it
And
is.
And I just have to, because I probably don't plug it enough, as we talk about the parks plan and then rolling into the new millage, like all these things are concepts that we can do with it and really implement and make some progress on with additional resources. If we stay where we are now, we're actually going to have to pull back a little bit, right? Those are some of the areas where we'll say we just don't have the resources to implement some of these things without additional revenue sources. So yeah. So we're really excited, but I want to make sure the commissioners hear all that also. We think we can move that needle on some of those things. And the MOU, and even we have the Grand River Greenway Coastal Corridor Management Plan that we'll be working on how we share that out with the public. It's a lot of exciting things that can be done there. And we want to take the lead on that. But right now, staff, right, we would struggle to find out who the staff person would be to lead it. So
That's a good segue into the strategic plan implementation update.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
You
Can
wanna
I
go-
mention one more thing?
Yeah, super quick.
Sorry, it's another MOU. So we're working right now with a bunch of different organizations, including the Michigan Army National Guard, Michigan DNR, MNFI, a bunch of folks across the state that do prescribed fire to sign an MOU to do a Michigan Burn Collaborative Fire Week in September. So we're hoping to get that passed through and hopefully get a couple extra fires on the books this late summer and early fall.
Super. Do you have something, Lucas?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
go
you. I just wanted to add, Field, that working for a local government, that Ottawa County Parks is, at least for me in the village and township, a huge resource anytime a question comes up about something that, hey, we're having a challenge with this, and the first person or the first thing we think of is Ottawa County Parks. These guys have been a huge resource to us over the years and how to do things and giving us a line on okay, whether it's invasive species or a park plan, or do you think this is even worth chasing, always in that realm. So I don't know if all the other communities do that or not. I presume they probably do. And they get a lot of phone calls and almost act as a consultant or in a I guess the initial contact to say, hey, is this worth spending some money on? So I've always appreciated that over the years.
Lucas, I think that's great. I'm looking, hoping that we can be not just reacting to comments, but we can be proactive of an outreach of explaining here, some little tools for here's how you deal with your backyard, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm done
Yep, good stuff.
with that.
Good stuff. All right. Anyone else? Any quick final questions? All right. Thanks, Neely. That was a good topic. Strategic plan update. Jason?
well, and we're happy to
Anything?
answer any question folks have. So
A quick question.
Yeah.
I think under the second bullet point, millage program development, should it say the millage options will not be incorporated into the parks plan, or it says will now be incorporated?
Well, no, yeah, they are incorporated into the parks plan.
And also not be included in future updates, right? That's correct?
Future updates in the strategic plan implementation, because it's shifting from the strategic plan implementation to parks
the
plan.
parks plan.
So,
Okay.
yeah, what the meant says the work on that that's almost finished as far as the work as
Right. Okay.
this update, this area. And since we're on strategic plan, quick, I'll just jump on that previous conversation, maybe endangering my presentation again. So there are many tangible things in the parks plan today related to this discussion, including the landscaping. We call it the Regenerative Landscapes Project, with funding allocated every year for that to help bring it outside of the parks. And that's a lot of the ideas at Eastmanville Farm that are infrastructure are to build up our ability to do that. And Crow had recommended in the strategic plan process a local government liaison position that I think would probably belong in community engagement because it might also work for school engagement too. We'll see, you know, just depends on how much time that, if they had that position in a new millage, that would do that. But I also wanted to mention quick, we met with Georgetown Township this week, the township manager. And we did bring up to them just that communication that we're going to be working on the Hager Park Natural Resource Management Plan, and that will be working toward doing all native landscaping there. So just, you know, not reactive, but in the way, so looping them in, and community engagement will be leading the engagement on that. And then there'll be specific community engagement recommendations in the Natural Resource Management Plan. And I think part of that is, I think that's, it will be a great park for highlighting as a base of highlighting the possibilities of that kind of native landscaping. And then also, I think a great place to, you know, communicate with Georgetown Township and stuff like that. So just wanted to mention a few tangible things.
Yeah. And, right, the one last and is all the funding now has been, right, wired, and we are set to close on the Bend area before the 27th. So DNR approved it, right? So,
Yes, that they released, so yes.
yeah, and thanks to public thanks. So on Friday, about 5 or 6 staff people at Fiscal Services scrambled around to make sure, including Brandy, to make sure the money was actually in the right place. And then the treasurer's office got the money wired out. It was actually Monday. So, you know, as we talk about these various components, and, you know, a lot of times we're talking about our parks folks, you know, we're part of a bigger team here at the county, and without the various departments, sometimes we would struggle. So thanks to Fiscal and the treasurer's office, they both came through when we needed them. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well
Great.
done. Any questions? Oh, go
I guess
ahead.
quickly for Aaron, I'm just curious how Georgetown Township responded to the conversion to native grasses.
So Justin's a pretty, like, jumps in, like he seems like a person that's a go-getter, and he seemed to
I agree,
right,
probably, I think
he was pretty on board with it. I seemed at that first, you know, blush, and I think we'll bring it up. We have a presentation.
we're presenting to them
Yeah.
in a couple weeks. They reached out and solicited and asked, so we'll talk to them about our strategic plan, our parks plan, acquiring the Bend area. We want them to, you know, be an important stakeholder as we do the master plan at the Bend area. It's a unique opportunity with the land that we're buying now, to have a little more active development than we've had in other places. So, yeah.
And I think we'll make sure to mention, like, introduce the concept in the presentation without lingering on it. So we're doing that slow, get the word out. Hey, well, you'll be hearing about this. You'll be invited to, you know, participate in the engagement. So yeah, I mean, both Neely's team, the hard part is just Neely's team and Jessica's team are quite busy right now, and we'll be in September, but we'll figure out a way to roll out some engagement probably later October and November for that.
Right, staff, as we always know, a lot of times staff get that, but we want to make sure we get in front of the board members too, and get their feedback. So.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Super. Question. Anybody else? All right, we'll keep rolling with the Visitor and Business Services report. Nick?
Yeah, so lots of stuff going on in the VBS world. So 5 months in now, I feel like I understand a lot more. So really my focus has been on team building, building relationships with my staff, really finding out, you know, what are they doing out in the parks, how are they doing it. I've always kind of managed that way. I want to be able to jump in if somebody needs help. In order to do that, I have to go out and work with them in the field. So I spend a lot of time out in the field at the marina. I've been doing some shadowing with Elaine and her crew in the reservation facility areas. And then, of course, spending a lot of time at the campground. We have a new supervisor up there. He's doing a great job. So accomplished a lot of things in the last couple months. Working on a lot of things still as well. One of the biggest changes, we now have 2 park secretaries at the Nature Education Center. And that's allowed us to make sure that that's open on Mondays, and then have secretary on staff on Saturday to really help with the issues that arise in the field on the busiest days of the week. So if somebody's having trouble, one of the park supervisors have an issue with a computer, or someone's having trouble in the park buying a vehicle pass, there's somebody that is really the expert in that that can answer that phone. So that's helped a lot with our customers' experience. Really cool story out of the campground. We had a individual who rented Treehouse 8. She had some disabilities and shared with me that it's first time out of the house in 10 months. And she was super excited, reached out for some reasonable accommodations. We were able to use the power wheelchair, adaptive wheelchair thing from the nature center. So she could actually get out, go on the trails. She went and spent some time at North Beach Park with the accessible wheelchair there, got out on the beach. She had a blast and she couldn't say anything negative about her experience. So it was great to have her there. It was really cool to see, you know, the impact that what we do can have on people. So campground update, we're working with staff. Thankfully, July, we got hit with a number of very busy days. We had a couple Sundays with full checkouts and turnovers, which is a lot of 8 furnished facilities with 3 to 4 people to turn over in 4 hours. So we went through that. We saw what worked. We saw what didn't. So we're adjusting our procedures, our staffing a little bit to accommodate that. Everyone still has very high spirits, which is great. We are laying the groundwork for marketing. So thanks to Riley and Jessica. Riley's been doing some digital marketing. She created a Facebook page for the campground. I had the chance to work some more with the Grand Haven area CVB. They brought their folks out and did some content capture and created some social media marketing for the campground that they shared on their channel. And then working with Scott, who works for the county doing communications. We had him out there in Treehouse in a yurt, and his big job for us was just gathering that content so that when Riley, Jess, and I kind of roll out that marketing plan, we have that content we can pull from. So if we got to create a video, if we've got to have some still shots, we have that at our fingertips. So huge thanks to Scott for doing that. Jessica also solidified our Google business profile. So now you can go on and leave reviews. We've put a mechanism with QR codes in all the tree houses and yurts. We want to make it very easy for our guests to share their experience. And then also to avoid people looking in windows in reserved tree houses and yurts, we put some QR codes up outside of those reserved areas so people can scan it and watch the awesome videos that Riley created and do that video tour of the tree house and yurt. So people are really enjoying that. And then on the facility rental side, as you can imagine, it's the busy time of the year. So being that we work on an accrual process, we collect all these fees for reservations year round, and then it doesn't really hit our budget until the reservation happens. And right now, with 2 months left in the fiscal year, we're looking at, we're ahead by 9.6%. So we budgeted 171,000 for reservation revenue. We're at 187,000. So that's good to see. And then with that, we are working, I've worked with the Nature Education Center staff, with the public program folks and the school program folks, and then Elaine and her team. We've had a good conversation about how do we want to share and utilize facilities moving forward between the 3 departments. That kind of created a good conversation and moving towards a business plan for the facility reservations. We decided that it'd be best to really sit down, and with Aaron's help, we're going to be putting together a facility use plan, which will really just set the priorities for every individual rental facility. So for instance, you have Grand River Lodge, which is really important place for programming because of the ecosystems that are right nearby and the facility that they have there. Like that type of place would be more conducive to public programming and school groups, whereas a facility for reservation would be more conducive at like Weaver House. So what we're planning to do is kind of put that together with some recommendations on how we're going to share these facilities and bring that to the commission to look through, get your feedback, and then kind of set the direction for those facilities. And once we've completed that, then we go ahead and make a business plan after that happens. So Jason, if I missed anything
that's
on
perfect.
that. Yeah, that's kind of the strategy we're taking. And then, you know, on top of that, other things I'm working on, continued learning and training, Katie's new. Welcome, Katie. So she knows it's a lot. There's a lot going on in Ottawa County Parks, which is super exciting, but as a new person, that can be overwhelming at times. So really trying to work through, what projects are going on now that I can learn as much as possible while trying to build my routine. Setting up my routine, I've set up my routine now with my supervisors, having every other week meetings, setting up those communication channels, creating those relationships. And then the big thing, right? Fresh eye is seeing areas for improvement. Is there things that we're doing now we could do better? So really focusing on that and working with my supervisors, getting their input. And then continuing to develop that marketing plan for the campground. Yeah, so that's all I have unless anyone has any questions. Oh, one other thing, sorry. I am working on how I want to kind of put data together. So if you have any feedback after the meeting on how the data is presented for sales, revenue, collection, please let me know. And then next month, my plan is to have some data on the marina as far as sales, occupancy, and things like that. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Quick question. Do you know off the top of your head what percentage of the rentals, the yurt and treehouse rentals are coming from within the county and from outside the county?
Yeah, right now, that's one of the areas for improvement we're looking at is some of the reporting capability of the software. So I'm not going to say that we can't do that. I don't know how to do that yet, but I will reach out. But that's really important. We, anecdotally, just being out in the park, in the feedback, it seems like a lot of local folks initially. And a lot of the feedback I've got directly is, oh, this is great. My family's coming into town, they can stay here. And I think moving forward is how do we break into that different category? Like we have a campground, right? But really it's furnished facilities, but it's also tent sites. So it's like your vacation rental area is very similar. So how do we get onto that Airbnb kind of side of things and reach that other demographic? So yeah, that's one of the areas for improvement we've identified.
Anyone else? All right, great. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. Let's see. So we usually have a fund development report, but we don't have one this month. But Katie, I was wondering to put you on the spot. Would you mind coming up to the podium and just introducing yourself a little bit? Or Jason, is there anything you
No,
want
that's
to
what
do?
you actually caught me. I was
Oh,
going to
okay,
introduce
that's right.
Katie. She started last Monday, so we didn't ask her to put together a full month report for the commission.
No.
Next month. So.
Next month though, right? Great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Wright. I am the new coordinator of fund development and major gifts. Super excited to be here. I come with a fundraising background for parks in particular and have a great deal of experience in working in partnership between nonprofits and public land agencies, a lot from the national park end of things. I moved back to Michigan just a couple of years ago, and I'm super excited to be a part of our local park system and supporting in any way that I can, but primarily just getting funds.
Great.
Questions?
Yeah, anything? Yeah. Well, welcome. Yeah, thank you.
I am originally from the Grand Rapids area, but lived in Ohio for 25 years.
Oh, we have these Ohio people.
All these ties.
Jason,
right? All
you did
these
that.
ties.
You're not gonna give her one of them. Well, welcome. Like Jason, it's no lanyard, no lanyard like Jason.
No, she's not a Buckeye. That's all right.
Well,
Work on her a little.
yeah.
Gotta work on her.
Well, we're glad you escaped from Ohio, so welcome back. All right, we'll keep rolling here and go on to the committee reports.
There
And
was
first,
visitation report, and we're happy to let it stand.
oh,
if
sorry, I
anybody-
thought that was part of Nick's report, but okay.
No, it's all of Aaron's numbers, but.
Oh, okay.
Any highlights, Aaron, you want to point out? June was one of our busiest on record, so for visitation and at some of the lakeshore parks. So it's just fascinating to look at some of that
Oh, I
data
skipped
and
that. Oops.
see. And we could, that's the thing. We could look at the use at Ottawa Sands and see, right, who's residents, non-residents. But I'm sure we could extrapolate it from our reservations too. But yeah.
Yeah, nothing to add for July. I think that it was too hot inland. The inland suffered a little bit from that, but
Sorry, I skipped that. I was looking at Nick's nice financial tables and thought that, but yes, I'm sorry to skip yours.
Nick will
Aaron,
add,
there.
right, I think you said that. You'll add for
Yeah,
some of the
marina.
other areas.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, now I'm square. Great, this is awesome, Aaron. Does anyone have questions on the visitation?
I
data?
have just a quickie. How do we count visitors?
we pay for a subscription service. From-
So for places like North Ottawa Dunes, how do we know how many people are?
It's cell phone. It's anonymized cell phone data that is paid through a international company called Placer. There's several of these companies now, just like on your Google Maps, you know, the traffic coming up, this the same method. And there's, so it tells not just how many people, but also how long they stay in an area and their origin, just, you know, the origin, where they come from in general, because they know they have algorithms that tell them if somebody spends like 51% of their nights at this one location, that means that's their house, and stuff like that. So, and it's very sophisticated. I just heard City of Muskegon is, they're gonna get a real-time thing that tells maybe, that tells how fast people are going on the roads, like in real time. So to try to combat speeding. So there's all kinds of like amazing possibilities that we all opt into, but it is, yeah, it is used by, you know, corporations. The, you know, the use case is like, if you're looking to locate the next Costco, you know, what kind of retail can you expect? And so,
But for us, we can tell, so, and so we have an annual subscription to mobility data that we
Cool.
pay for, and then we can harness it. We put the GIS footprint of North Ottawa Dunes. We can tell, you know, what jurisdiction they come from, if they're a resident or non-resident. We can analyze with the various jurisdictions their residents' visitation. So if, you know, Georgetown Township is one of our larger, you know, jurisdictions by population, but they also have a very high percentage of their population visit the parks. And so, yeah, we can delve into all of that. So as we talk about, you know, the benefits to the local communities, that subscription, when we did our strategic plan, that's how we identified visitation and then the economic impacts for tourism dollars. But as we look at the millage renewal, it'll be helpful to share that story as well.
Awesome. Any other comments, questions? All right. Here we go. Now we got it. All right. The committee reports. We'll start with the executive committee. Just real quick, mostly 90% we talk about agenda items. We talk about future presentations, which, you know, when we have a feature, like Aaron's going to give our presentation today. But like Jane pointed out, maybe we get Tyler to do one on homegrown national park or the park in your backyard concept in one of these winter months, possibly. Let's see. Talked a little bit about big picture parks plan, millage information, and as well tracking the Campbell plant and developments on what's happening with the Campbell plant. Still tracking North Ottawa Dunes settlement. And also, I guess maybe the next thing I'll just mention is we got several upcoming dedications, which we'll probably have some resolutions or motions at the September meeting to pass for some really outstanding volunteers that have put in years and years and thousands of hours of time to do some recognition and some upcoming events. So look for that next month. And I think that's all I have, unless anyone has questions or anything to add, Jane or Lucas.
You covered it.
Perfect.
All right, we'll keep rolling with the planning committee from August, and that's Lucas.
All right. So we had a great history lesson on the Bend area at our meeting. So staff did a nice job with that. And so I think, as you heard, sounds like moving ahead with the acquisition this month, and look forward to more master planning activities in the Bend area. The Grand River Coastal Corridor Conservation Plan. So that's something that we're looking forward to the completion of, and seeing how that can be utilized for us and for local units to really help identify that space as help our communities understand how special that space is along the Grand River. Ottawa Sands, some lively conversation there about lighting on the loop and things of that nature. So I think there's, generally speaking, there wasn't a lot of support for lighting around the loop, but there was a variety of different, ideas there with different types of lighting that may or may not work. And there's some of the things that came up were like, well, Grand Haven has a lot of light pollution, so there's a lot of light in the park already that you'd be able to see the pathway and things of that nature. So kind of an interesting discussion there. But generally speaking, there's some extra dollars there to spend in Ottawa Sands, and looking at picnic tables and play equipment seemed to be a high priority. Eastmanville Farm, just an update on the study that's happening out there. So I'm excited to see where that ends up in a couple weeks. And then we talked about the parks plan draft, and we kind of dialed in on the snowmaking aspect of that, and that was the topic. And so some concerns were expressed about that specifically, but then more about like, okay, how do projects stay in the plan or come out of the plan? And at any rate, it was a 2-hour meeting, so it was pretty lively. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them or give it a try. Okay.
All right, thanks, Lucas. We did have a community engagement meeting, but it was just last week. Or was it last week? Is that way? I think that'll be in next month's packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll probably have that next month, right?
It was the day before the packet went out. So
Yeah, that's right. I'm getting my dates, but yeah, so we'll have that next month. And so we'll do finance and policy. Linda's got a couple of months.
Yes, I have the June one, and then that moved on into July because we didn't finish the work until July when we passed the budget. I guess what I want to say right now is the budget's been passed. Brandy's doing whatever Brandy does with the budget and trying to get it started to get it in the system. I hope everybody remembers that we don't see a final budget usually from the year. So for the 2025, it will probably be after January when we actually see the final numbers. I like it when she shakes her head that I'm not lying to you all. So we will have conflicting numbers. They're not really conflicting. They'll just be different, and they may be different every month as bills come in, as we pay things, as people pay us through for the 25 budget, as we start the 26 budget. So for those of you who can balance your checkbook, and that's not me, please be gentle as you understand that it doesn't match up all the way, and probably it might be March-ish before we actually know how the year ended. So I just, a pre-warning for that. It's like how I always ask Jason Berger, how come we don't see more money from the passes? And he has to explain to me every year because we don't really see any money until January or till May. So same with that. We did talk about some bids that are in process, which I think we're going to hear, which Kurt already talked about bids. I think we have those in the for out.
Yep, the board approved those.
Yeah, we already did that. So it's pretty much historical information.
Awesome, great.
And we took this month off.
Yeah, that's right. Any questions for Linda?
I don't know if they're the questions for Linda, but maybe questions for somebody. I noticed that, and I understand things accrue during the course of the year and you hopefully come out with a complete thing, but there seem to be some pretty staggering issues with the numbers that we just did see. And I would like to see.
Not really.
Okay, so the fact that we're down $5.6 million on intergovernmental revenue.
It's because it's when it gets paid. Shake your head, yes, Brandy.
Which report are you looking at? Field
Financial report that was in our packet.
Oh,
Quarterly.
packet.
But it was the previous quarter. So as I had it explained to me, as we get taxes come in for different millages at different times, so we don't always see everything by the quarter that we thought we should.
I just,
Field, what you're seeing is that is on the CIP. So I think we're looking at the difference between our amended budget and actuals. Is that shortfall of the 5 million?
there was that figure, and then there was the other figure, other revenue. We were down by 4.17.
Not down. I mean, so part of it is it's just what's the delta between now and
And the end of the year.
into the end of the year.
I understand
So
that.
that revised, right, Brandy?
This is that fund 408 is our capital fund. So those projects are opened at the beginning of the project, and then they're not closed until the end of the project. So a majority of these won't actually happen. The revenue doesn't come in until we've expended the funds. It may extend more than 1 year.
Well, and so the last column, revised, increased slash decreased, that's actually if there was an adjustment, or explain that column.
He is correct. If we look at our, as an example, under our intergovernmental revenue, we have an amended budget of 9.3 million.
Yep.
And we've only received 3.7 million
Right.
so far, because that's the portion of the projects that we've completed so far.
Okay, so the thing is not
Only-
showing by quarter where we should be.
No, they're by,
My
job.
Projects may extend up year beyond 1 year. So this is revenue that we are anticipating to be received if the projects extend more than 1 year.
Okay.
and
So-
they have, so we may have been paid for part of it, but we haven't been paid for the entirety of it.
Right.
And we may not see that till next year.
Well, and so for example, as we do this land acquisition, I don't know the total amount, right? So that will be part of that 5 million. It's a couple, so 1.5 million that then, the next one of these should show that 1.5 million that were grant dollars coming in. So, and I did apologize before you got here. I think we didn't have there normally is an accompanying highlights, notable comments with this pointing out anything like that. And we just didn't have it done when we sent the packet out. So,
Forgive me, I'm a relatively new member of this board, and those numbers scared me.
Great questions, great questions. And we always try to, that's, so we'll do that at the finance committee this month.
And one other is, I noticed that we're down in salaries by $1,030,000. Is that also something that ends out being fixed by the end of the year?
Normally, so we almost always are down in salaries because of seasonal employees and what we budget for seasonal employees.
But this is lower.
In what we spend,
Yeah.
we typically spend less. So
They leave.
almost
We didn't
always
fill them.
annually. So like in 2026, we actually used a percentage of, what do we call it? A vacancy credit, and try to manage that a little bit proactively. We had done that previously, but we did a big seasonal salary adjustment a couple years ago, and we used that as part of to absorb that. So yes, we almost always are under.
And so out of that, I've started working through these numbers as an example for that $1 million salary difference. 530,000 of it is seasonal, and that includes wages and taxes that are related to that. So it's not just wages, but it's wages and like federal employment taxes.
Makes sense.
Under budget.
No, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
At least it's not over budget, right?
Yeah.
No, this is way under
No, I
budget.
know.
Way under.
Way under.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But it happens with the
So I
department
would
heads.
think you would have,
Paul and I, and we all go through the same kind of formula that, it's like a credit, kind of.
Well, so this past year, we built in, I forget the amount, but we built in a vacancy credit. It's each year, it's a balancing act on how much we try to work out of that.
And I think others, like Katie's position was vacant for a while. So there would be, even though that was funded in part by the Parks Foundation, so that would be a big, out of that $1 million.
Still comes out of the same pool.
Yeah, but there are other vacancies that we don't fill them right away.
Yeah. So at first, when you said we didn't have this summary of call outs, I was like, well, that's okay, but I'm sit on finance and policy. So we talk about this a lot. But so for other people who aren't on finance and policy, I realized that would have been beneficial. So yeah, maybe if next time we can do that. Or I'll try to remember to ask for that in the packet too. It would make sense. So, all right. Any other questions from anybody? All right. Good questions. All right. Foundation update. Jane, do you have anything you'd like to talk
Just a couple
about?
things. Foundation Board hasn't met since we met, so their next meeting will be in September. But I wanted to convey how thrilled Margie Vivine, who was a founding member of the Parks Foundation, was at the park, or at the bench that the Parks Commission dedicated to her at Eastmanville Farms. We had the little dedication ceremony last week, and she's just over the moon about it. It's in the perfect spot. So thanks to all the staff who worked hard to get that installed, and staff who were there to help Margie get up and down the hill, Kate in the truck. And yeah, and the folks who attended too are absolutely thrilled with the barn, the repainted barn. It looks gorgeous. So it was a really nice event. And Margie has done so much for parks, and she was just so very thankful to the Parks Commission for that bench. So so thanks for all that. Yeah, Jason included some stats from the race, and it turned out to be another very successful event. I think runners have come to almost expect that to happen. So we'll see what the next, if Anita and the foundation are inclined to keep going with that, I think it really does fit well with our mission. I got some updated stats from Angela on the breakfast and lunch, which although it happened, back in June, money is still trickling in. And a couple, I think, interesting stats that she sent were the number of new donors that the foundation got as a result of that event. This year, we got 27 new donors. Last year, we got 18, so that's, an improvement over last year. Also, 6 new monthly donors compared to 2 from the year before. So, those monthly donors really help the foundation cover cover their operational costs. They know it's money coming in, so it really helps in their budgeting. And the other interesting point that Angela made is that it's a really important conduit for volunteers, people who want to become more involved with the foundation or with the parks. So it's a really, it's both important because of the financial donations, but also because we make connections with even more and more people interested in helping out in the parks in some way. So I know it's a huge undertaking, but it really does pay off. So those are just some interesting stats. The annual meeting will be October 8, right after or before the Rosie Mound event. It should be a very short business meeting. It looks like we will have at least one new member on the foundation board, and there will be a election of officers and whatnot. But of course, everyone's invited to that. So it's in a different spot this year, but put it on your calendars. And Kelly mentioned we've got some resolutions next month, and in conjunction with a couple more dedications coming up. So you'll get more info on that. So that's all I have, unless you have questions.
All right. Thanks, Jane. Lots of good stuff going on. All right. We'll jump into new business, and we don't have any old business. So it's the 2026 Parks Plan. all what, 369 pages? Before Kurt gets started, I'm just gonna do a shout out. This is just like a phenomenal parks plan and reference document, especially like I told Kurt, when I first started on the commission, I just printed out a copy and just took it with me everywhere. Cause I'd go to parks, and I'm like, what's happening at this park? And it's just like all of the thought, and it's just so well written. So kudos to you, Kurt, and staff who contribute to it for sure. Cause it's just a monumental undertaking. And it's really, really a great document. So.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, it does take a team effort to put it all together with all the different parts. And we had quite a few people working on it. I put pressure on Riley. I get all the things here. I need you to do this. Okay, get it in, make it look good. So yes. So I assume all of you got the email, right, with the document. And so what we've really tried to do is take off right from all our discussions. So it's just formalizing the discussion in the plan. And so, yes, we did look at funding scenarios. So if you go to chapter 6, that lays out the revenues we anticipate over the next 10 years based on the different millage rates. And if you go to chapter 13, there are these big spreadsheets that list every project that we think could be accomplished under each of those funding scenarios. So like I said, 6 and 13 are the ones to read about the actual details of what's proposed. A lot of the other stuff is really good information, right? I mean, I know, Linda, if you want to learn some stuff about Ottawa County and you haven't, there's some pretty good stuff in there. All the new demographics is in there. And of course, everything has been updated, discussing it about, based on the latest that has happened since 5 years ago. The one thing I will mention is, Kelly, you had asked, there is supposed to be a reference to every project that we've talked about somewhere in the document. It might just be a passing reference or just saying projects from here to here, meet this criteria. The one area that we did make a mistake there is the master list of projects in the back is the wrong one. It's correct as far as it goes, but it doesn't have the 200 extra projects that we've been talking about. So we will get that fixed right away and send that out as soon as you want, or as soon as we can. So let me just tell you where we are in the process, right? So what we need to do is get this out for public comment. And the schedule that I have set up is that would happen in September, basically September 8 to October 10, thereabouts. We can get it out earlier than that, that's fine. But that way, if we get it out by then, we have all the public comments back and we can get those to you in time for the October 22 Parks Commission meeting. And these dates are in my report. I didn't say anything about that, but they're in my report. So, and then at the 22nd, we would also have a public hearing so that people could come and address us directly if they would like. And that's fine. So then we have another month after that to incorporate whatever we think was useful from the public input process or your further thinking or deliberations on that so that we could approve it finally in our November meeting and then get it to the Board of Commissioners, who also needs to approve it by their December meeting, and then we submit it on February 1 or before. So I think we do have, if we absolutely have to, a month of play in there, right? The Board of Commissioners could approve it in January and still make it, but I'd like to do it before then. So what that means for us right now is I scheduled it to go out for public comment after the next planning committee meeting. So if you have comments or questions, contact us prior to that and we will go over those, and then the planning committee will see it one more time at their September 2 meeting, right? So September 2, we have all the comments. We've got a few days to put it together to go out on September 8 for public comment.
So I'll make a motion to accept the draft. This is key for everybody. It's a draft of the 2026 Ottawa County Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan and approve release of the document for public comment after you add those 200.
Yes,
The spreadsheet is adjusted.
yes.
Support.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
Draft.
Draft. It
Draft.
is a draft. It says draft on here. It definitely is a draft. So yeah, if you're wondering, I mean, so you'll have several opportunities yet to you make adjustments, suggest additions, gather input from people you know. Yeah, until the end of the year, basically.
All right, are there any questions or comments or things people wanted to review as a group today?
And then really, the segments there's a lot of background and historical data in there that then leads to, right, the plan, but it's chapter 13, right? that-
13 is the action plan, right?
The
So we
action
go
plan.
through-
So if
we
you
go
have-
through, the first part is things that are kind of overall in general, and we try to put that in the format from the strategic plan, right? So it's listed under the divisional thing, and then after that, it goes through every greenway and every park property, everything that we think we could possibly want to do in regards to acquisitions, development projects, renovations, community engagement, or natural resource management. All of those are incorporated.
And a lot of that then is summarized on table 13.1, which is the capital improvement schedule. And that lists each of the major capital projects broken out, and we break it out by greenway and by year. So, and we have it listed out for the entire, although this is a 5-year plan, we have it listed out for the entire millage. So, and then that's done at the 0.33 millage rate. So it's worth noting at the very bottom, the last line on that, there is average annual adjustment to revenue or expenditures required to complete the proposed capital projects as scheduled. So we know that if we keep the millage rate the same as 0.33, we're going to have to make up increase revenue and potentially decrease some of our expenditure some. And that averages out to about $722,000 a year. So in order to do the renovations, major capital projects, major projects that we have identified and have a 4 million, approximately 4 million fund balance at the end of the millage cycle. So we can get into all of that, you know, in more detail, but that chart really is the one that gives you the nuts and bolts of each project that's listed.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I guess I would encourage, I mean, hopefully everybody got a chance to go through this, the parks plan before today's meeting, but if you didn't, or you want to take another look, I would say, personally, I would really like it if comments could be sent to Kurt, probably to your attention, right, Kurt, before the planning committee meeting, so we can have a more robust discussion then on whatever, you know, questions people have, or would like to revisit before it goes out for public comment. Not that we can't make comments after that, you know, as Kurt mentioned, as part of the public comment
Yeah,
process.
that's
but-
ideal. If by the end of the month we have any comments or suggestions, that would be perfect.
At the end of August?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Get going, Field.
Tomorrow.
You can't leave on Labor Day vacation until you've gone through the parks plan and. you know,
well, and there
at least
shouldn't
that
be any
you can.
major, right? This is all
Right.
part of
Right,
the
there
various
shouldn't be any
projects and other things
surprises.
we've been
Yeah.
working on. It's now just in one document. So to a certain extent, it
Like I
hopefully
said,
is
6
easier.
and 13, chapters 6
6
and
and
13
13.
are
Yes.
the meat of what we propose. The rest of it is great background, but you don't need to read it all to understand what we're proposing.
The one thing that we talked about in the last days was the idea of what our future growth is going to be in the county in terms of valuation and the tax base. And I do think before we confirm this thing, we need to get at least an estimate from the county of.
This isn't necessarily, so I think that, you know, this plan is the planning document.
I
And
know.
it doesn't approve necessarily those expenditures. So
But it would be nice to have some idea before we go ahead and approve of a plan, if we have some general idea of where we would be with the renewal of the 0.33 millage as a base. And then as you know, I'm an advocate of doing more. But I want to get you, we talked about this the last few days, the estimate of what our county, our revenue was going to be for the parks in the year 2018 was 3,500,000, and we're at about 5 million now. So there's growth. And I'd like to have some idea of what the estimate of what our growth is going to be.
Just yeah, I mean, beyond, because if you were doing this in 2006, it'd be a lot different than what happened in 2016, right?
Sure.
So as a rule, we've done in the previous ones, and I think we kept the same. We just did our best estimate for 2027, which is the latest estimates from fiscal and the treasurers. Is it plugged in there for the millage with, and on the 0.33, it's with, going to 0.3, back up to 0.33. So, renewing and getting rid of the Headley rollback, and then 3% growth on that every year. Like, I don't know if any equalization has a great crystal ball on
Well, I
what
think
the
that-
real.
So I think I think we can provide what Field is asking for, and we can also add some other notes that are worthwhile information when analyzing some of that data and explain how this is all put together. So I think we can. do
I
some
think
of
if
that, but-
equalization were to give us that estimate, I'd like to see that kind of an estimate from them. And as I mentioned to several of you the other day, I sit on the road commission and I see what's happening with new plats in the county. And compared to last year, it's significantly reduced. There are not a lot of new plats for development. Now, Ottawa County theoretically is growing really rapidly. But from what we see, we've actually canceled 3 road commission meetings because we haven't had enough of an agenda to look at new plats. And I just think we need to be sensitive to this.
So, and I think that there's 2 things that we're talking about. So the Parks and Rec plan is our planning tool and our document, and it's not approving the millage rate at anything.
It's
so-
advocating certain options, though.
So we need to approve the Parks and Recreation.
Of course.
Plans. And the
do that
the
no matter
information we
what.
can provide will help, right, that you're asking for, I think is really important when we're considering the potential for the millage renewal and the increase. And although we're having the conversations together, we need to look at this as a planning tool that lays out different options that will be dependent then on the decision we make with the millage, but it's not one and the same. So it's
Understand.
critical that we,
But
right?
But when we make that final decision on where we're going with millage, I'd like to have at least some idea of what revenue we would be facing.
Right. And as I said, we'll get it for you. Yeah.
Right. So there's projections in there. They're obviously based on assumptions, right, about where we are in the growth rate.
And we can explain
going
how we've
forward,
always
but
done that.
yes.
And there's
We can
a
talk more about
table
that.
with historical data on, right, those revenues and expenditures and
Okay, great. Anyone else? Anything to discuss before we put it to a vote? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. 11B is the annual distribution of the NEC Endowment Fund at the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the way out.
Sorry, hold on. Who do we have? Okay, this is
I'll make-
Jason, but yeah, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve that request as suggested in our
Okay.
packet.
Thanks, Jane. Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, thanks,
I'll just
Lucas.
tell you when it's ready and we'll figure out how to get it.
All right, Jason, did you want to go over the formalities here?
Yep, just very briefly, and I tried to map it all out, so we've done this for several years now. So when the Nature Education Center was built, there was a small endowment fund established with that. The Parks Foundation is annually also supporting our community engagement initiatives. So what we ask, and just to make sure everybody's on the same page, The Parks Commission is the entity that can request the use of these funds. And we actually take the funds and then send them to the Parks Foundation. So then that goes to the to part of the funding that then ultimately comes to us. So next month we'll do a request for operational support for fiscal year 25 going to the foundation, and it'll list those various initiatives that they support. So, yeah.
Perfect. Any questions? All right, put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. And last, we just have for information, a presentation from Aaron on, this is one of our feature presentations on grant strategy, evaluation, and application processes. You're just gonna have to wing it, Aaron.
It's actually, well, it's in the packet too. So
Yeah,
we
that's
actually got
true.
it
No.
out in the packet. So
Very nice, too.
Riley's working on something else.
It's because he usually runs his own slides.
So, and if anybody has ideas for, presentations as we move forward this year, don't forget to send them in. We'll see what we can do. If anybody has anything they'd like to learn more about or hear about.
Auspicious beginning. It's a little tough because I was hoping to go off about it. I hope, especially after it's long awaited, that this would be like at least in your top 5 presentations ever. With the
Let's
subject
go.
matter and everything.
Right.
So, yeah. When we get like entry music for these, like it's wrestling or the Savannah Bananas. So.
there we go.
72.
Oh, good call.
It is page 72 of the packet.
So you gotta go to 72, Riley. Page 72.
Hey.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, so this is not on all grants. It's mainly focused on state grants, and when Jason signed the presentation, I thought of first, I'll just copy these slides from the presentation you get every year from the DNR.
So can you just provide a little background on 2 things before we delve into that? Just talk about, right, tie it back to the Parks and Rec plan and the long-range budget that we do and kind of that strategy. And then also the internal at senior leadership with the administrative directive and trying to talk about those when we do apply for grants or request funding.
Okay, so I'm just doing this for the first time. These questions that
Hi.
I'm getting, one of those is in one of the slides. So
Okay.
See, everybody did the reading, but the first one, yes, the key thing with long-term, before I came, Kurt had been planning, not just in the parks plan, but annually had a spreadsheet. He looked at where grants fit, and part of my role has been to refine that, because obviously it's not infinite, which an amount of grants we can ask for per year, and then not every project is a fit for every grant program. So you have to think about the timing of projects every year and what ones fit and bring them all together. And that's the magic in the parks plan. We have a guesstimate on that, but it'll be refined as when you get there, is the project ready and stuff like that. And some of these criteria might change. They do refine the criteria for grant scoring, so we try to be sensitive to that. So anyway, so that's how it relates to the parks plan, and then another way it relates is they want it to be referenced in the parks plan somehow. They prefer, it's not absolute. I know from talking to them that they allow you to amend the parks plan in between. So they're not, one thing with the state, they want us all to be successful. They're really dedicated staff, work hard, and they all want recreation and parks to be better. So we're all on the same team, and really go out of their way to help a project be successful. Otherwise, these are the three main programs that the state administers, with the trust fund being the headline program. It'll turn 50 this year. And as we heard at the dedication for the Stearns Bayou Connector project, the Grand Greenway will be in, whatever this means, iconic project for them. So somehow, I'm guessing we'll hear more, will be, highlighted by them. But the key thing for this is a pretty amazing public policy success story overall. A real difference maker for Michigan. It's a constitutional amendment that was started with oil and gas revenue on public lands, and they got to a limit. They collected those revenues, and a portion of those revenues up to 500 million. And then at 500 million, it became an investment fund, and that's what it is now. So it's a huge, actually it's around 700 million now, I believe. And it's, highly managed by, we go every December and see a presentation on how they diversify their investments and plan for, trying to maintain that $500 million balance. So that's pretty unique and a pretty special resource for all organizations in Michigan. It was amended a couple years ago, so there's also now that oil and gas revenue goes to a state parks fund, and that has to sit a certain amount, and then that money will start going back into the trust fund until it gets a $1 billion cap. What I have understood from talking to them, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. Wait for that. So not anytime soon, but I just wanted everybody to have that background, because that's the key thing to understand about it. And that also means I think another thing about it is it means the fund's not that predictable. But I'm not going to linger on these slides. These just tell you what they are. Could you go to the next slide, Riley? So this tells you, just gives you an idea how many the next couple of slides just give you an idea of how many projects, the volume per year in general, and how many are doing it. Like with the trust fund, it's more variable because it's based on they partly base what they do on what they make each year in investments, and that varies. So some, a couple of years ago, it was a bad year and they, just gave them about the minimum. Last year, it was a really successful year, and they try to be careful not to be too exuberant with that, but they are also, they talked about, this is a conversation that's ongoing with the legislators, and the legislators don't also want them to get the fund too large, so that it's attractive to grab from it, even though that would take a constitutional action. Another thing to mention, these projects are approved annually. They're recommended in December. Well, that's in the future slide. So go on to that one. One thing you'll notice between the trust fund and the land and water that's important for us is the trust fund's a lot more projects per year, and land and water is a lot less. I'll get into that, what that means for us and why that is later in the next slide. Recreation passport, we won't talk about that a lot. On the bottom, that comes from revenue shared from the annual passport you pay when you renew your registration. And that is it's not really suitable for our kind of projects. It's meant for, I think, less resource organizations that have less resources and recreation than we do. One of the things you get a lot of points for is if you don't have any of that type of recreational facility in your community. And so we would have a very hard time doing that. Okay, could you go to the next slide? So this is just a quick review of basics as we talked about the parks plan in relation to this and who can apply. So no surprises there. That was just for your background. Keep going. This is one thing I quick will mention. Trust fund's a great resource for acquisition projects. 25% of the money goes to acquisition, 25% to development every year. Now, and they have 50% to play with when they make the recommendations to the trust fund board. Previously, before the recent constitutional amendment, 50% of the money had to go to acquisition. So they felt like when they made that change, they felt like they had made enough progress in acquisition and there was a lot of demand for development among their grantees. So they wanted to have the opportunity to move it where they see fit. On an annual basis, there's far fewer acquisition projects than there are development projects, probably like 3 to 1. So last year, almost every acquisition project got funded. Could you go to the next slide? And if you have any questions as we go on, please.
I'm sorry. Yes, did you say last year every acquisition
I think it was like 90%
funded?
of them, yeah, was funded. Because, yeah, there's just less of them. So this slide just, shows the criteria, how the different requirements for match. One thing we've learned that's important is the DNR for their projects aren't required to have a match for their acquisition projects, which could be important down the road.
Well, and that's why you see less acquisition projects because, 25% of right, it's just a lot more.
A lot of money, and it just takes a lot of, really, on the Bend area acquisition, literally, the time it took between Kurt, Jason, and I, it was an immense amount of time in different ways to get that pulled off, and it's very difficult. I am, on 2 boards. I'm the chair of the Muskegon County Parks Commission, and I'm on the City Parks Board for the City of Muskegon, and the effort for them to do a grant is just an incredible amount of effort with their low resources. So it's just very difficult for an organization to do an acquisition. And they wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of, like the Dune Harbor Park one, without the help of the Land Conservancy and just the general support from the trust. They're working on one where they're doing it out of a cycle grant in the City of Muskegon. The customer staff is helping them literally to get the application complete. So scroll the next slide. This is a key thing, and we've dealt with this before. When we make these commitments, we're making, the state's money is going in. It's, all the state's money to do these public projects, so they encumber the project in perpetuity. So you're expected, and that limits the uses that you could do in the land. So technically, some of our facilities that are like Weaver House, we could not build Weaver House as it is on a property that was bought with trust fund, or whether it was a trust fund or land and water project that we did on there. It has to have an educational aspect to be an enclosed facility. Some of that, like Tanglefoot Park, that kind of is on, that facility is kind of an enclosed facility, kind of not. So I don't know where that goes, but I guess we're kind of grandfathered in with our facilities that we do have that now. But that's a key thing as far as those requirements. And then other revenue generating facilities are, that are, I think there are parameters around. You can't just locate a business on a trust fund property. I'm not sure how they manage that at the deck in Muskegon. I think there's a lot of Marquette Park. I think there's a lot of gray areas, and it gets tough. But I don't know. I would want to have if you wanted to do something like that, I think it'd be you'd want to have a conversation ahead of time with the trust fund staff before you went ahead with something like that to make sure they're a partner of that. Next slide. And this is the timeline. We're in this year. We applied, I mentioned earlier, a couple grants. So we're waiting we just had a couple site visits with Kurt and I, with Chairman from the trust fund at the Bass River site and at Rosie Mound. And then we'll wait. Our scores should come soon, and then the next slide, they'll decide in December. That's always a must attend meeting. Always interesting, always fun to see people and see how that interact, see how the trust fund thinks about it. It's a pretty, I would say, as we get into the scoring, it's a pretty objective process. There's, I think where the politics comes in, only is on the edges. You can't like just pull your project to the top. It's just on the margins where that makes a difference. Then as it says, it gets transferred to the legislator, and I think there's one more slide on the timeline. Yeah, and that's where we're at now because of the budget process. It's been, feels like it's been delayed every year I've been here in order to get access those grants for the trust fund. It has to be appropriated by the state legislator. And in the last legislator that was worked into the budget process, and obviously the budget's not passed yet, so the grant agreements aren't available yet. So we wait for them every time. A couple weeks before, in the previous legislators, there was like 1 year, one legislator held up the whole thing just because he didn't like something. And so that seems to happen every year that it gets delayed. So we kind of plan on it more than we plan on it happening early. Land and water is a little different, and it's allocated federally, and it comes down to us federally. That takes some time, but we just got our, as you know, we just got our grant agreement for the upper MAC. We applied for that in January of 24. We just got the grant agreement, so that's typically how it works. Okay, yeah, next slide. Okay, now I get into more specific stuff about us. So any general questions about the 3 grant programs and that's the process. Okay. All right, so acquisition grant history. So we wouldn't be here today, obviously, without the trust fund, with our park system. We inherited a lot of land. We started with 400, but we had a big transfer of 1,200 acres. In the early 90s, there are the open spaces, and then we had transfers from like Riley Trails and East Boneville Farm. But and I have the numbers on all the acquisitions, how many we purchased with just millage funding and how many different grants. But some of the biggest properties have been grant funded, so we've obviously got all this acreage and all that funding came in, and that's part of the reason our numbers we talked about the planning committee meeting where we brought in more grant or donations than we've spent in capital funding over the life of the Parks Commission. And this is the difference, and that will be, as I mentioned in the thing, that'll be harder to do going forward because no matter what option we go ahead with in the next millage, it won't be quite as much acquisition. So, and almost, most of them, we've been very successful when we've done it too. We did have, the Bend area was one I was involved in where the first time we applied, we were rejected, and then came back and got it. That was the Boynton acquisitions that worked out. Next slide. So, and this is a breakdown of the history of our development applications. Again, very successful. This is something, since I've been here, we've learned from watching others, and that's one of the benefits of going to the meeting in December is that, people do submit more than one application. Agencies do, and I'm sure there's a limit, but even on the same project, one year where I really saw the insight is like Grand Rapids did like 4 applications for the same project. They just had different extents. so that brought them, they got 3 of those grants. So that was 900,000 for them to do that. So we, it's don't hate the player, hate the game. So we just, have done that, and we have the resources to do that. And we, as we get into criteria, we have a lot of projects that fit their goals. So we should take advantage of it. Next slide, please. Yeah, and then land and water, and just at the previous slide I mentioned, we've tried to do multiple, a year where the opportunities are. And land and water is one we've taken more effort to put in those. Those just take a lot more effort by staff, and I think that's one of the reasons I mentioned before. There's a lot less applications for land and water. And there's just extra requirements that you have to have an archaeological review beforehand, and endangered species review, and it's just, if you don't have the staff, you just don't apply to do it. And that makes it easy for us, because if you do put a project in, even some lower, there's a good chance you're gonna get funded. if you have
So
the right
that's,
project.
and land and water conservation funds come through
Federal.
federal, and although they go through the DNR grant process, they grade them and then help administer them. It's a federally funded project, so the various components and requirements for those, that's why it's more.
Yeah, the federal requirements make it.
Right.
The other thing I'll mention, there is some, land and water got more funding in the first Trump administration when there was it works on oil and gas revenues too at the federal level. So the funding that came to the states was increased. There has been some talk about taking some of that money back for maintenance. I don't think that's been resolved yet. So there might be less money in the future. Overall, it's not a big chunk annually. I think it went from 5 million to 9 million and spread across the state. That's not a ton. So we've had good luck with that, and there's more restrooms planned in than parks planned to use this funding source, because they seem to fit well with the parameters. And there's not some of the other parameters in scoring related to equity and location. So this is, from these state sources, a big chunk of money, 32 million over since in the life of the Parks Commission released this chart. We gotta do some work, and pretty sure about the overall money that came in. I found other grants that we've applied for that we weren't successful. So I just want to make sure we have all those. I think we got most of them in our grant system. And then a lot of activity in the last, since 2016. So that's every year since 2020. Next slide.
Hey, Aaron, this is super good stuff. I love it. Do you think it's possible that we might be able to wrap up in like 5 minutes with the rest of the
Oh, yeah.
slides? Okay, I just wanted to check because I know a couple folks have to be out by 5 and we have a little short closed session, but this is really good stuff and I'm glad we have it in writing. So good, great.
And I tried to, you had the slides for a couple months, so that's why I didn't think on it.
No, this is really good stuff.
So just a quick thing on the process, it's all done through an online system that we work, and there's many steps once you get a grant to work through, and that's another part of that staff time that's involved in managing these grants. For grant agreement, for bids, for things, there's several steps you go through, and that slows down projects for one, and it's worth the money overall, but it is, a grant is a time commitment on both sides of the project. Next slide. And then here's the kind of some of the trade secrets. This is where, because it's such an objective grant scoring process, we're able to estimate what our scores will be and select our projects to fit their scoring criteria. And there's some that we know might seem like a good idea for a project, but it's so low a score, it wouldn't be worth the effort. So we use this to estimate, and that's worked out pretty well as far as knowing some stuff is very obvious. Like I said, next slide. And not a lot of time that to apply is not the big, necessarily the big time part of it. So it's worth sometimes taking a chance. We know from the scoring, well, I think that's the next slide. Yeah, from the scoring, the key things on the scoring. So if it's in an urbanized, so something, an area like something in the nearer to Grand Haven, nearer to Holland or Allendale and Georgetown Township is going to do better. However, like Grand Ravines and Grand River Park are in Georgetown Township, but they're not in an urbanized area. So that's 30 points less per project out of 500 than if it was in Hager Park. Ottawa Sands is in the urbanized area, so it does better. If it was Paw Paw Park, would get 60 points. So it's 15, 45, and 60. So that's a huge difference. The same with low income. areas, if you have a lower median household income, you're going to get a better score on your match and on the project. One thing, they changed how they do that. They base it on analysis now, so I'm not sure exactly how that will work. It might make us more competitive because of our household income for the county was so high. We hardly ever get points for that. And then right now, their board priorities are for trail projects. So anytime for regional trail projects. So that's why we've done so well. We've gotten 3 grants for the Explorers Trail. As I think, and there's a few things where there's more of a judgment call on sustainable and universal design, where you try to convince them, but that's harder to gauge. Next slide.
And I think I want to so those few slides really predicting what the score is. And so that's where, historically, organizationally, the department's always really had a strength in being able to look at what those scores are and identify those even in the Parks and Rec plan. And so, and then with Aaron on board, and, we can evaluate what opportunities we have and how they'll score. And it's a real big advantage for us. So.
Yes, and that's having a big part of my work, and that's in my new job description as project data and grants manager. This is managing that, and that strategy is a important part of what I do. Another part of that is like just managing the historic grants, so we have that all available. We have all the applications we have ever done, all the grant agreements. Not yet, but we'll get there, and then we'll have GIS letters, so we can easily find which properties are encumbered, because that question comes up a lot, and it's an important thing to track. And we just don't know that in a full way yet right now. And then, as Lisa said, we're working it into the senior leadership meetings to track them and make sure we have the grant reports done. This is their quarterly too. I mean, they're on the same fiscal year as us, so that we have some due at the end of the year, end of this fiscal year. Next slide. So, this is wrap up. Last slide. Message I wanted to relay is, this is the last slide. The message I want to relay is going forward, it'll be much more difficult to be so successful if we stay at 0.33. There's other next year. We're looking whether we'll have any projects for 2028. That because it is kind of a transition between villages. It's not knowing what funding you'll have makes it a little tougher. Although there is one project that could change that a lot, as far as we have an acquisition grant every year for 4 years or 5 years. So, and then the DNR has been helping us on the Bass River segment, where they've applied for a land and water grant, and they can get more than we did. Yet they got $750,000 to the $500,000 Parliament, and they might apply for a trust fund grant next year. And then this is just a quick couple of notes about some of the other programs that we've also been successful. They're just not as common. And we'll, we have one more TAP project in the Explorers Trail, but after that, we might not have as many TAP projects that we're working with. So that's the presentation.
And I think in recent years, right? So with the Hawthorne Pond and Upper Mac projects and connecting that trail between and working with the township and the Outdoor Discovery Network, we proactively facilitated the grant applications and process for the township. So we built the grant for them with their information and submitted those then on their behalf. And that's one of the other ways we can work with partners. So that's, we had that conversation with Georgetown Township yesterday. So.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. Part of it is that I'm in the system all the time. So we don't have that learning curve for getting in the system and working with the stuff. Some, what stuff is where you spend your time on it.
Super. Good stuff. Anybody have any quick questions for Aaron? You said yes? Yeah.
Not a question, but just confirmation. 32 million total, right? And through all those projects, 16 million since 2016.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa Sands is 8 million of that. And,
okay.
Rosie Mountain is another 3 million, so
And-
that's a lot there. But, you know. other
Sure,
projects,
sure.
Bend area and, you know, 2 Bend area grants, and then many land and water development grants.
And did you start this role with the county in 2016?
Yeah, I'm up there. I might.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I might as well save up my mail.
Right.
I was like, why did you put 2016?
1,000? You're betting 1,000 since 2020?
No,
What?
no.
Yeah,
We missed at least one.
No, I have not, yeah, we haven't had any of these state grants. No, they've all been successful. That might.
No, we didn't get Upper Mac in the first ask
Oh,
for trust
yes.
fund.
He just brought you down and
Yeah, right?
We got it recommended for funding the second go round,
That's
but,
right.
right, that's a strikeout, so not
Aw.
1,000.
It's okay. We still think the world of you, Aaron. That's all right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you say, right? He's still, right? I think.
All right. Anyone else? Or Lucas, did you have any more
Yep.
questions?
I just forget.
Yeah.
Lucas is going to come schedule an
I
appointment.
just had one more.
It was on the bubble. It was right. It was like the next one to be funded.
We knew ahead of
So,
time.
All right.
yeah.
All right. Lucas has another thing for you.
You
Hold
get
on.
paid on commission?
There you go.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else?
Just a quickie, if we were to do joint applications with a township or with a city or something, would that get us extra points?
No, there used to be collaboration points, but it was so confused how it was.
Okay, thank you.
that they eliminated that.
That's right.
Perfect.
Usually,
Remember
actually,
that,
the
yeah.
townships, well, like, the last one, with Howland Township, they don't have a lot of grant history, so that helps them actually to have less. So that's
Okay.
why-
Yeah,
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Thanks, Aaron. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
The most exciting presentation I've
Yes. You got to come tomorrow to my one at the Rotary in Muskegon, see if I need to do better on that.
Oh, very good. All right, we're going to keep it rolling here. No public comment here, but if there's anyone online, please feel free to submit your public comment to the email address in the YouTube video description, and we'll take a look at it. And we're going to go around the horn real quick. Commissioner Prerogative, we're starting on this side. Field, do you have anything? Martin?
All set.
Okay. Linda? Jane?
Nothing?
Lucas?
I just thought the sustainability plan that's on our website is pretty good, and I think it's from 2016. And so I'm just interested in looking at that some more.
Awesome. Yeah, good
So-
idea. Bruce?
This plan looks really cool. And not, cool is not the right term, but all the photos and everything else that go along with it
Yeah.
to explain things as well as the master plans are pretty incredible.
Bill?
Just think, compliments and kudos to all the grant writers we have in Ottawa County, period. I mean, if you look at Parks and Conservation District and everybody we get a ton of money back to Ottawa County and we got good grant writers. We're really proud of that, so.
Good point, right. Paul? No? All right, okay. And we can take roll to move into closed session. So thanks, everybody, for coming who doesn't need to be here anymore. Pardon me?
Yeah, you need a motion.
Oh, yeah. A motion would be great. Or you can just call, yeah,
Question
apparently.
caller.
So move.
All right, thanks, Jane. Do we have a support?
Support.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
Get that memo.
Now we'll do roll. Sorry about that.
Okay, Bush is not here. Greenlee,
Yes.
Harris.
Yep.
Hill,
Mhm.
Kyers,
Yes.
Longstreet,
Yes.
McCaffrey,
Yes.
Reichart,
Yes.
Rice, Sacks.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, everybody.